Welcome to the Grip Cannabis Connection, the podcast that explores the intersection of cannabis and business. Hosted by Corey Lord, a master cultivator of indoor and outdoor grow operations, this podcast is dedicated to helping listeners cultivate success, leadership, business, and community in the thriving cannabis industry.
Hey, welcome to the Grip Cannabis Connection, the ultimate destination for high-octane insights and exhilarating discussions on the fast-paced world of cannabis cultivation. We're firing up the airwaves to bring you the latest trends, cutting-edge techniques, and game-changing strategies that will propel your cannabis ventures to new heights. From the thrill of harvesting bountiful buds to the adrenaline rush of overcoming cultivation challenges, we're here to fuel your passion and equip you with the tools you need to conquer the cannabis industry. Get ready to unlock your full cultivation potential, break through barriers, and cultivate success like never before. Ignite your ambition and join us on this electrifying journey through cannabis cultivation. This is the Grip Cannabis Connection. Hey, I'm Corey, and I'm here with Logan, and we are going to talk to you a little bit today about pest disease control and outdoor cannabis grow facilities. Logan, what are some of the most common pests and diseases that can affect outdoor cannabis cultivation, and how can cannabis cultivators identify and manage these risks?
The most common pests that we see are aphids, spider mites, caterpillars, whiteflies, leaf hoppers, russet mites, thrips, and I've even seen slugs. Unfortunately, I've seen
In Michigan?
all of these. Not in Michigan.
Okay, just
but
double
over,
checking.
over my time of cultivating,
Banana slugs?
I've seen these. Oh yeah, big slug, like slugs that are terrifyingly big. However, having dealt with all these products, I've learned quite a few ways to help get them under control and mitigate the issue. The diseases to be aware of are hop latent viroid, septoria, powdery mildew, and botrytis. I have experienced all of these as well. The best way to identify these issues is through experience. Thorough scouting, knowing when and where to look, and having your team help with this and report such issues will play in key factors in
Yeah, if you see
understanding your
something, say
problem.
something, please.
We have printed out pictures and made little field pamphlets in the past for employees to help with such like a field guide. Um, and then there's a chain of command when there is an issue of who to be told and then how to act
Yeah, I mean,
upon it.
here in Michigan, like the most common outdoor pests, for me anyway, I would have to say is aphids. In Washington, I rarely encounter them, but here in the Midwest, it seems to be like the one of the most prevalent, if not the most prevalent, outdoor pest. There are a handful of common pressures outside in Southwest Michigan. The most common of which, for cannabis, or at least once again, from our perspective here in Southwest Michigan, are aphids, septorias, loopers, caterpillars, and borers. Late season botrytis isn't as common for us as it had been in Western Washington historically, which was the last thing I was expecting moving here to Michigan. I considered that the nighttime humidity was actually going to add a layer of complexity to this, but it looks like the harvest season it dries out quite a bit. It may get cooler and like damp through the day, but it really seems like the humidity wants to play with you for a little bit, or will at least like play ball with you for a little bit, until it starts snowing and it's over. The first step really in management is to know the enemy. My first year here, I learned that I had a lot more in store for me than I would be used to, so it gets me out of my comfort zone a little bit. I didn't see the types of pest pressure that I was used to, and I really just needed to realize that that was going to vary significantly. But one of the things that really caught us by surprise was the introduction of Septoria. That is probably the biggest thorn in our side right now. And even like this, like that was our year one situation where I wasn't anticipating it at all, didn't really know anything about it, and looked up one day and realized that that's what was going on. Year two, I was prepared for the issue, but still really didn't have the efficacy in the program that we selected that I was anticipated to have. I would say that up to 30% of our field was compromised due to Septoria, so it's definitely on our shit list.
And for those of you who don't know what septoria is, it is a leaf blight that literally eats your leaves. And so when you are in the middle of bloom and all your leaves start turning brown and yellow and dying, you will most certainly compromise your yield. So that, like Corey said, is our biggest target disease that we are really trying to help
Yeah,
mitigate this
I
year.
mean, and I really, obviously, like you said, like if the plant's starting to deteriorate earlier than you're expecting it to, the yield's going to suffer significantly. Um, we were still successful, but not to the degree at which I know that we really can be. Like it was so dramatic that I was certain there was more to the story. Like it really developed on plants that were suboptimal to begin with. So I think that the compromised immune system of that plant led to the issue getting worse than it was year one. We also discovered we had HLV in that particular cultivar too. I'd say HLV is like the newest plant disease that you've had the whole time. Lack of detection early in my career obviously led me to brush off low quality growth and like underperforming plants as a me issue. As I culled them and moved on, but we all saw it. Like we just didn't know what we were looking at the time. This season, we took our production strains and tissue culture remediated them. It's a long process, but we are looking forward to seeing how dramatically the plant's performance has increased this year on the cultivar that we did get to remediate. I mean, if any at all. Our tissue culture plants look great. They're low squat plants with wide crowns full of healthy, vibrant cuts. I'm super excited for the newly established vigor, and we're going to report back frequently throughout the season on what we observe in the field regarding the TC plants versus the plants that we held from our original stock. But regarding how to identify and manage risks, like mainly just want to scout frequently. Yeah, daily, weekly, and if you do it less, you really just don't care. Understand the common regional pests. Put together a program that covers all the local bases. Like work to break up life cycles of the common pests in the region. And if you see something, absolutely act upon it immediately. Waiting one day to tell somebody and then another day to act, and you've just created more work for yourself. You've allowed the pest pressure to get worse, and it's just getting more and more established, and it's not getting any easier to fight. You're fighting for your crop. They're fighting for their lives. Act accordingly. So, what are some of the strategies, Logan, that cannabis cultivators can use to prevent pest and disease infestations in their outdoor grows? How effective are these strategies?
Our number one strategy is a tight IPM program. We spray very regularly with multiple different types of products to ensure we don't create super bugs, meaning that our products we are still spraying are staying effective. In the past, I've come across instances where we were spraying the same products over and over again and not killing bugs, and realizing that the bug itself was actually becoming immune to what we were spraying on it. Essentially, for each issue, we have a solution. For each type of pest or each type of disease, we have a solution. We have a plan. We have a strategy. Essentially, we plan for the worst, and that way we have the products on hand that we know we need to combat such an issue. We have to follow a very strict product list here in Michigan, which disallows us to use some products I've been very successful using in the past. But all that means is for me to learn and understand new products and how I can use them to
And just for
our
everybody
advantage.
listening, he's talking about spinosad, by the way. So it's commonly used in what, Oregon? I don't know about California. I know Washington
California,
is not allowed
Washington is banned.
because of the impact on bees, and it's also not on the label here in Michigan. And I'm assuming that bees and bee production is a driving factor, but I do not know. So if anybody out there does know, please don't be shy and let me know how I fucked this up. So, like, everybody hears this. This is super cliche, but like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Act early. Being proactive and understanding that you will have pests is the bottom line. Like, you're not going to get around it. At some point in time, especially outside, you're going to have something. Whether it's, late season botrytis, septoria, late season or August aphid pressure, moths, caterpillars, borers. Borers actually year one, the only year that we had them. They started taking out like, a handful of plants, and I had no idea what it was. Obviously, we figured it out, but at that point in time, after you've already seen damage, there's not a whole lot you can do. Luckily, it wasn't very impactful for us year one, but it definitely scared the shit out of me.
And it's common to find corn borers that are hopping over the fence and in our plants. They're common in
Yeah, you have to
agriculture.
understand what's in the area and spray accordingly. Like spray it, spray at a high frequency, rotate often, and scout relentlessly. There's literally no reason not to act. You'll always get what you put in. If you put no effort in, you'll make no progress. And if you aren't prepared to handle your shit, just don't grow and move on. Like, do something you actually want to do, because if you aren't willing to protect your plants, you shouldn't be surprised when you fail.
Right. And going off that, poor plant health will illustrate your issues even more. If the plant's immune system can't help fight off the issue, then you're gonna notice it visibly worse. You know, prevent, prevent, prevent. The more you can prevent, the more you can help create an instance that the bugs or pests don't want to be a part of. That will also play a huge part in your
Couldn't agree more.
success.
What are some of the most effective natural and organic pest and disease control methods for outdoor cannabis cultivation? And like how do these methods compare to chemical treatments, if you have any experience with that?
I actually have a decent amount of experience using natural and organic pest products. To some degree of success, some others not so much. I think the most beneficial, um, natural or organic thing that I've done, is using beneficial predator bugs, from time to time when you may have a population that you're struggling to control. It can help aid in the control. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be the end all be all fix, but it will
In
certainly
conjunction with a
help.
tight IPM, it's almost bulletproof.
We use soaps and oils derived from natural plant products that are on our okay list for chemicals to be sprayed here in Michigan. However, physical removal is literally the best way you can mitigate the issues. Organic and natural methods don't really compare to chemicals, in my honest opinion. But as stated before, we have to follow a strict rule for certain chemicals that we can and can't use. Um, Not to mention that the health benefits from such methods can be super harmful, to the consumer and to your plant, if over applied or applied in the wrong
Yeah,
fashion.
and by chemicals, I'm assuming you mean like what, pyrethrin, like a straight azadirachtin, like
Right.
yeah. So nothing crazy, but still like it's something we're trying to pivot from. Obviously, in Michigan you can't use pyrethrins at all, which you could in Washington, and I feel like Oregon, it's almost just kind of handle it.
Yeah, Oregon just
Interesting.
it's kind of the Wild West still out there.
Yeah, so I mean, our IPM is organic. Like we use no harsh chemical at all. Don't have much experience with chemical pest control. We'd have to speak with someone who grows your food to understand exactly, how effective like harsh chem is, especially at scale. We use a combination of biofungicides, bioinsecticides, mineral oil, sulfur, and insecticidal soap in rotation to break up the life cycles of just about anything we could encounter throughout the season. We continue to find and test new products as they come into view, and I'm never hesitant to learn something new. Never be too proud to change and learn something new. Like you just might find your new favorite way to protect your high value crop. Just yeah, always listen to other people's recommendations. You don't have to take them, but like at least just don't put yourself in a
Yeah, hear
echo
them out.
chamber. Yeah, hear them out.
And just to speak on that, if somebody does suggest a new product or a new method, always jar test, always do a sample test on a very small area to see if it's going to cause any adverse reactions that
Yeah,
you
there's
don't
no
want to
reason
see.
like this would be one time where I'd be like maybe wait a day. So I know that this does slightly contradict what I said earlier, but if you're struggling with something, it's not getting better with your spray program as it is, and you want to try something new. Obviously, one day is not going to kill you. Like, you don't have to act immediately on everything and spray something brand new on your product, or on, yeah, a brand new product on your plants, on your product, that you've never done before. Like, strain to strain, actually, we find that, like, spray toxicity varies a little bit. So it's not something maybe you would consider to be true, but it's definitely something that we've observed in the field. So, which brings us to our next question: is how do cannabis cultivators manage risk of pesticide and fungicide residue in their outdoor grow facilities? Like, what are some of the strategies they use to minimize these risks?
We manage our risk in such instances by having a thorough cleaning process to ensure there aren't any chemical reactions or adverse reactions on the plants from materials used that were not compatible to mix together. After we spray, we rinse out and clean our spray equipment very thoroughly and ensure that such product isn't left in the tanks. Um, Speaking from experience, I've had a sulfur application be too close to an oil application, and it took days to realize what the issue was. I thought there's no way anything I sprayed would have done this, and that it had to be something I wasn't seeing. And when you really dive in to understanding the products that you're applying and reading the labels and knowing what kind of reactions may occur, like you have to do your diligence and understand what you're using, proper intervals, proper application, um are going to be key ways to help mitigate some of these issues, and having any sort of cross contamination from residues between such
Yeah, dude, and like,
products.
if applied correctly, there really isn't much risk for residue buildup on your plants. As far as like drift is concerned, for residue getting in areas that we don't want it to be, that's something that we always keep in mind, and try to track the weather patterns and the wind, um, as much as humanly possible. Spray when when times that there's not going to be a risk of spraying the neighbors or anything like that. So always try to be neighborly. But if you're seeing any remaining like residue on your plants, never be too proud to like rinse off the following day if spray damage is of concern.
Mhm.
It seems counterproductive, but the most counterproductive thing you can do is damage your plants. Or like, one of my biggest pet peeves is paying to cause plant damage. Like, it's completely avoidable. Like, I don't give a fuck what anyone says. Like, there's no advantage to causing plant damage to try to mitigate an issue. That's an amateur way to look at the problem at hand. I would rather see someone use a low dilution rate and follow up spray frequently, rather than thinking that spraying at the max rate is going to fix your problem in one application. It's just not effective. And this line of thinking will only cause you more issues with little to no efficacy against your pest problem. If you're hard headed and don't want to listen, just pack it up and head somewhere else. This ain't for you. So, Logan, how do cannabis cultivators manage the spread of pests and disease from neighboring crops and other nearby sources? Like, what are some of the best practices for preventing these issues?
So really managing the spread of such issues comes down to your dedication to scouting and addressing and acting on an issue properly. Knowing what to do for what instance will come in time and with experience, but getting there can be a long, hard road with some to many failures. These failures are what have allowed me to learn and grow as a cultivator. If it weren't for the mistakes that I've made in the past, I wouldn't be where I am today.
If you're not failing, you're not trying.
Yep. And knowing where your hotspots are, marking them off so they can properly be scouted, and keeping track of the issues and staying on top of your populations and whether they're growing or decreasing, um, staying on top of your IPM program and literally using all your tools, will keep things on the rails until populations are controlled or a harvest takes place and you literally physically remove the product. Um, as far as diseases from neighboring crops and other nearby sources, just know what your local bugs are, know what your local pests are and diseases are, and ensure that you have products to manage such things
Yeah, I mean, that's
properly.
really that was the number one thing for me, is just trying to like absorb as much knowledge as I could about what the local and regional pests were. It it prepared me and scared me, but I was able to at least act in a reasonable amount of time year one to mitigate a lot of those problems. I mean, really, like Logan said, like the most impactful thing that you can do is scout early and often, and then treat early and often. Go preventative versus trying to cure something. I mean, the best thing you can do is not be reactive in these situations. You encounter the same pests at roughly the same time every year, and it just takes a little bit of foresight and some planning and some conversation around the issue to actually take things to the next level and actually get through the problem. Also, like one of the more impactful ways is to isolate a threat once you identify what the target pest is and treat the full canopy. Then you can focus on hotspots, like a combination of like hotspot sprays in conjunction with like defoliation, trying to remove any areas that are infested, while not just rolling around and everything else too. Like you want to be as clean as you can, but you have to get the issue out too. So that's really a pretty bulletproof way to, if you can't cure something, you can at least get to harvest.
Yep. You want to act, not
Yeah, yeah,
react.
yeah. And you're gonna do a fair amount of reacting throughout the season anyway. So if you can just cut that down and just try to plan ahead as much as humanly possible, like we're not asking you to do much, just think about it a little bit, and you'll be way happier with the result. Also, so hey, how do cannabis cultivators use crop rotation and other agricultural practices to prevent pest and disease issues in outdoor grow facilities? What are some of the key considerations when implementing these practices?
As a cannabis cultivator, we're starting to use more and more agricultural practices um, that you'd see in more conventional farming, especially now with the way we're drying. And for a farm, say that's going directly into the ground, you're gonna amend the soil similarly to how a
You
conventional
can.
farmer
I mean, and you
does.
probably should.
Soil testing and understanding what type of media or soil that you're going to be going into is a huge part of our success. Planting seasonal cover crops, establishing vegetation to control runoff and erosion issues, and things like that will help with issues that may arise for, in other aspects. We will grow quite a few different strains as well to try to break up bug cycles and help with product diversity. We have a few strains that certain bugs really like more than others, and knowing that it's it could be beneficial and not at the same time, but more so than not, if you have a crop that a bug is specifically driven towards, it will help you be able to know where those bugs are, and you'll know where your hotspots are, and you can concentrate more on mitigating that high
Yeah,
impact
we don't have
area.
like a traditional crop rotation where we're growing different things in different areas at different times. But like, there has been some thought, and I've had a few bad ideas around trying to lay our farms out differently every year. It's not just out of boredom. I think we'd have a lot to learn by actually trying to just move things around the farm. Like there's no reason we have to grow the same thing in the same place every time. And also like it seemed it didn't necessarily make sense to me coming into this, but like really seeing how finishing time can dictate pest resistance depending on what you're talking about. There's really some sort of like there's something at play there.
Yeah, there's
So
some synergies
yeah,
there.
yeah, definitely. So I've nobody wants to do this, but I thought that maybe we could actually try to diversify like how a plant could, or excuse me, how a pest could move through our plants by like mixing up our zones and like trying to plant not plant two strains next to each other. And like I said, it's gonna make harvest a nightmare, and I don't think anybody really wants to do it. So it's a dead idea, but I do think there's some merit to it depending on what you're trying to do. Like I don't know if necessarily like aphid pressure would be any different, but we have noticed some efficiencies around mixing up the crops and how Septoria is able to move through the crop. If there's multiple strains next to each other, it seems to struggle with actually persisting in that area, even if it's in the row or zone next to it. So it's something to keep in mind. It's something we're observing in real time, and it's just something that I'll be thinking about every year of just how to manage our risk with Septorius because it is such a high cost issue.
Yep. And you know, for instance, to other practices that we use that are very similar now to large scale ag, you know, we're using tractors to spray. We're using very large scale irrigation systems that are pumping similar amounts of water as conventional ag. And now even our drying systems, we're going to be using a new system this year that is how farmers have dried grain for hundreds of years. So we're really excited about the new technology that's becoming available for cannabis, and we'll definitely keep you posted on how these
Yeah,
things
no, I
go.
mean, obviously, we're hoping for the best. I think we're going to learn a lot out the gate, but I think we're going to really be able to dial some of that stuff in toward the end of the year. So that's very exciting. Um, how do cannabis cultivators manage risk of viral and bacterial infections for their outdoor grows, man? Like, what are some of the most cost-effective strategies for preventing these issues?
Wash your hands, wear gloves, sanitize and properly clean your equipment. I mean, speaking for myself, you know, I almost lost an arm to a bacterial infection
True story.
a few years ago. Went through multiple surgeries and skin grafts and all sorts of stuff like that, all solely from a cut that I had on my hand that got infected from some soil at work. So they think. I'm not really sure on that one, but anywho, I uh, I highly suggest keeping your hands clean as much as possible. Wear gloves when you need to, where you can, and just use proper SOPs and things like that to ensure that employees are following up on these protocols. We use products like Sanidate. We use a lot of isopropyl alcohol, and we use bleach on all of our things like our scissors and tools like that that come in contact with our plants. To our knowledge, bleach can help minimize spore spreading and contain issues with spreading spores and possible
As my good
virals.
friend Charlie McKenzie always says, start clean and stay clean. I mean, mainly, basically everything Logan said, times 1,000. You know what I mean? Like, you just have to just think a little bit about what you're doing and try to keep your tools clean, your hands clean, the area clean. Use a clean area, clean the clean area until it's clean, and then clean some more. I really think that it is that simple as far as virus or viroids go, and bacteria. I mean, I guess that I forgot you actually did have a bacterial infection. It was associated with outdoor growing. Not at this company, obviously. It was a few years ago, but like, well, maybe it's not obvious. So it was a few years ago, but yeah, that's something that you really don't think about a lot.
Yeah, and another thing I want to add is just to be cognizant of your actions. You know, if you are in a high pressure area and say you're deleafing to help mitigate some of the issues so you can have a more effective spray, think about that before you walk into another room or another area or around other plants that you could
It's
potentially
just, yeah,
infest.
it does kind of all boil down to common sense. Just you like think about it, be active, be proactive. Try not to be reactive, but if you have to be, then be clean about it. How do cannabis cultivators balance the costs and benefits of pest and disease control measures in their outdoor grow facilities, and what are some of the financial considerations that impact this decision?
IPM products can get expensive, but with proper management, proper scouting, and a high degree of understanding the products you're using and the issues that may arise, you can manage all these costs. IPM is not something that you want to skimp on. It's not an area where you want to cut corners on. These products can literally make or break your crop. Really understanding your products and their mode of action is highly important. Knowing what you can tank mix together to attack multiple issues at once was something that was very successful for us at the large farm last year. Having to spray 50 acres is no feat. So knowing how to improve efficiency and
No
get more
small feat.
applications out,
It's a big feat.
no, yeah, no, it is a big feat. But yeah, so having to spray 50 acres takes quite a bit of time. So knowing how to improve efficiency and get more applications out helped us prevent many
Yeah, I mean,
issues.
as far as IPM products go, like they can range from $500 a gallon to $60 a gallon, and you might think that that has some indication on its efficacy, which it does not. As far as I can tell, anyway, I find that some of the more expensive products are actually less effective than some of the more affordable products. We started leaning toward mineral oil based products and sulfur and
Soaps.
soaps. These things are not expensive and they're effective. You just have to kind of establish your technique, understand what your goals are, understand what the pressure is, understand the life cycle of what you're dealing with, and learn how to break that up as effectively as possible and actually get to harvest without doing any sort of economic impact to your canopy. You're always going to have issues, and they're literally never going to go away if you don't do anything. So like the best way to do it is to plan, like understand what you're going into, plan your year out, and try to get a week ahead on any pest pressure as it comes into the season. Like if you can be slightly proactive, even a day or two, it's going to be much more impactful for you than trying to pick up the pieces as you're actually trying to grow the plant too.
And get out there and scout. Don't be afraid to check the same area once every day or once every other day or twice a day even. It's never gonna hurt to be scouting and knowing
Yeah, I
what you're
mean,
looking for.
it's scouting's not even that bad. It's like what you're driving through a field full of weed. It's really it's basically what you've always wanted to do. So
Especially during harvest, it becomes
yeah,
fun.
really need you to stop scouting during harvest, Logan. Really got to get this weed down. All right. Well, hey, thank you for tuning into the Grip Cannabis Connection. We hope you enjoyed this journey through the world of cannabis cultivation. Hopefully, we packed some insights and maybe some slight inspiration in here, along with some actionable strategies. And if you found value in our episodes, we greatly appreciate it if you could take a moment to leave us a review and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. You know what they are; they're all out there. By doing so, you'll never miss an episode as we continue to bring you the latest advancements and advice in our area of the cannabis industry. Stay connected with us on social media and join our thriving community of cultivators, where you can share your experiences, ask questions, and network with fellow cannabis enthusiasts. Remember, success is within your grasp, so keep pushing the boundaries, stay focused, and cultivate your dreams with the unwavering passion that hopefully we all have for this plant. And until next time, keep thriving and cultivating greatness with Grip. Thanks.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks for tuning into the Grip Cannabis Connection, where we explore the latest trends, strategies, and innovations in the cannabis industry. We hope you found this episode valuable and that you'll join us again for future episodes. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform and share it with your friends and colleagues in the cannabis community. And if you have any questions or feedback, feel free to reach out to us. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep on cultivating success.